Long story short, the DOJ has just released more than 3 million pages connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump's name appears in those documents roughly 3,000 times. There's also an email involving Elon Musk and Epstein about visiting the island. There's also stuff about Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, and on top of that, there's an FBI list of allegations related to Trump, but it's important to be clear that many of those appear to be based on unverified tips rather than confirmed facts. So, today, I want to break down all of it, go through it step by step, and do our best to keep things free of spin or bias. And here's the plan. I'm going to ask AI to look at the document drop as a whole and see what it actually tells us. Then we'll have a closer look at the Musk email and talk about what's really there versus what people are reading into it. And finally, I'll send the 6-page FBI allegations list to ChatGPT and let it react to what's in the document. Before we get into any of that, I want to be very clear about one thing. Nothing that you're going to hear is expert analysis. AI is not a final authority, and it does not decide what's true or what's false. This is simply an experiment to see whether systems like this can cut through a massive emotional information dump and engage with a complicated topic without turning it into partisan noise. And as always, if you want to see more content like this, be sure that you're subscribed to the channel, that you follow us on our socials, and let me know in the comments what you think about this release. Have you ever opened the news and felt like you're somehow reading about two completely different countries? One side is screaming cover up, the other is calling it a total nothing burger, and they're reacting to the exact same story. That's honestly why I've been using Ground News, who's sponsoring today's video. Ground News isn't another outlet telling you what to think. It shows you how different outlets are covering the same story, all in one place, so you can actually see the bias instead of guessing where it's coming from. Take the Epstein files release, for example. Over 500 sources covered it. Left-leaning outlets framed it as Trump's DOJ dragging its feet or protecting him. Right-leaning outlets pushed the idea that this release proves there was no wrongdoing at all. Same documents, completely different narratives. Ground News lays all of that out side by side. You can see which sources lean left, right, or center, how factual they've been historically, and even how concentrated ownership is. If you follow topics like US politics, tech, or AI, Ground News also lets you track exactly what you care about. It even highlights stories one side is barely covering at all, the blind spots most people never see. So here's the deal. Head over to groundnews.com/AI or scan the QR code on the screen. You'll get 40% off the Unlimited Vantage plan. That works out to just $5 a month. That discount only works through that link, which is also in the description and pinned comment. Huge thanks to Ground News for supporting the channel. Now let's get to the video. Alright, here we go. As always, I'm going to ask it to gather up all the latest information first, just to make sure that it's fully up to date. And once that's complete, we'll get to the first question. Okay, so ChatGPT has to be clear, straightforward, unbiased, no sugarcoating, no fluff, none of that. To start off, I'm going to ask it to look at the document drop as a whole and share its take, just to get a sense of where this conversation is going. Alright, here's the answer. Here's the straight answer. This drop was underwhelming. Big volume, lots of noise, very little new substance. It does not confirm the existence of some hidden master list, a secret blackmail operation, or a coordinated cover-up by specific public figures, and it also does not meaningfully disprove long-standing suspicions about Epstein's social circle. It mostly keeps things exactly where they already were. What it does confirm is something simpler and uglier. Epstein was deeply connected to wealthy and powerful people, many of whom were comfortable being around him even after red flags were obvious. That's not new, but the scale of casual association is now harder to deny. What it does not provide is hard evidence tying new individuals to crimes. Mentions, emails, contacts, or flight references are not proof. The drop doesn't move anyone from suspected to proven. No new charges, no smoking gun documents, no clear transactional evidence. It also quietly confirms another uncomfortable reality. If there was ever airtight evidence against additional powerful people, it's not in this release. Either it never existed, it was destroyed long ago, or it's still legally sealed. So the takeaway is boring but important. Epstein was a predator protected by money, access, and institutional failure, not a mystery finally cracked open. This release closes a chapter, it doesn't blow the case open. Alright, got it. Now, I wouldn't say that's exactly boring, by the way, let alone Elon Musk. I remember he was one of the first people to say out loud that Trump shows up in the Epstein files. Well, now you too, man. So, let's ask AI what it thinks about the email where Musk discussed visiting Epstein's island back in 2013, and here's what it said. Honestly, that email looks bad optically, but it's not the smoking gun people want it to be. A billionaire asking Epstein about visiting his private island is obviously uncomfortable, especially with what we now know about Epstein. Musk didn't need Epstein for access, money, or connections, which makes the decision look careless at best and tone-deaf in hindsight. That said, the email by itself doesn't prove wrongdoing. It shows interest in a visit, not participation in anything illegal. And there's no evidence he ever went. Context matters. Epstein actively courted powerful people, and many took meetings or exchanged messages before his crimes were fully exposed. That's not a defense, but it is reality. So, my take is this. It's a bad look and a legit reason for scrutiny, but not evidence of guilt. It shows poor judgment, not criminal behavior. The difference matters, even when the optics are ugly. Well, fair enough. I actually agree that email is absolutely not evidence of anything, and honestly, I didn't really see people seriously questioning Musk over Epstein in any major way. So now, let's move on to the allegations the DOJ released, then deleted, and then put back again. There's a lot in there, and a lot of very sensitive language, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT to avoid certain words, send it the 6-page file, and just allow it to react to what's in there. Alright, here we go. I'm going to be very direct but careful, because this stuff is explosive and it matters how it's handled. I read the entire 6-page file, including the tables, notes, follow-ups, and internal emails. What it contains is not conclusions or charges, but a raw compilation of allegations, tips, and secondhand reports. Donald Trump's name appears multiple times alongside Jeffrey Epstein in connection with extremely serious accusations involving minors. Calling this nothing or routine paperwork is dishonest. At the same time, the document does not establish guilt. There are no findings, no tested evidence, no legal conclusions. That gap is the heart of the problem. The first thing that stands out is repetition. Trump's name shows up across different years, different complainants, and different contexts. Some claims are first-hand, others are second or third-hand. Details don't always line up, and some accounts contradict each other. That weakens individual claims, but the overlap itself isn't random. Repetition alone proves nothing, but it also can't be waved away. The second thing is the severity of what's alleged. These are the most extreme accusations imaginable. Underage exploitation, coercion, intimidation, even killings. Claims at this level demand hard, independent corroboration. Without that, no responsible person should declare guilt. That's not protecting anyone. It's how justice is supposed to work. But skepticism can't be used as an escape hatch. These aren't internet rumors, they're complaints logged by law enforcement, sometimes reviewed, sometimes flagged, sometimes left unresolved. Some claims are weak, some may be false. Others are detailed and recurring enough that dismissing everything outright is intellectually lazy. This file doesn't deliver a verdict on Trump. What it exposes is a system that let Epstein operate near power for years while accusations accumulated and went nowhere. The failure here is institutional, not evidentiary closure. Well, okay, that's kind of wild how cautious ChatGPT is all the time. I honestly couldn't even tell whether it thought any of this was true or not. And yeah, the DOJ has already said that the claims about Trump aren't true, or at least that they don't have evidence to support them, so that's what I want to talk about next. But before we get into that, this is a perfect time to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with your own thoughts, especially about the file that we just went through. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. We're not done yet, so let's move on to the last question. Now, I want to ask AI whether it believes the DOJ when they say the claims about Trump in this file aren't true, and here's what it said. I'll be blunt. I don't automatically trust the DOJ just because they say something, but I also don't dismiss their statement as empty spin. It sits in an uncomfortable middle, and pretending otherwise is dishonest. On one hand, the DOJ saying the Trump-related claims in this file are not true and lack credibility matters. This isn't social media or cable TV. When the DOJ makes a statement like that, it's attaching institutional risk to it. If they had solid, corroborated evidence tying Trump to criminal misconduct with Epstein, saying this publicly would be reckless. They know that. So yes, this shifts the needle toward there is no provable case here. On the other hand, DOJ statements are not holy scripture. Institutions protect themselves. They protect prior decisions, past failures, and their own exposure. Saying these claims are false is not the same as saying we exhaustively investigated every allegation and disproved them beyond doubt. Often it really means we do not have the evidence that meets our legal threshold and we are closing this publicly. The key point is that the DOJ is speaking narrowly. They are not saying Epstein and Trump never crossed paths. They are not saying Trump was never in Epstein's orbit. They are saying the specific allegations in this file do not rise to credible, provable criminal wrongdoing. That distinction matters. Anyone presenting this as Trump is fully cleared of everything forever is overselling it. At the same time, saying the DOJ is lying, therefore Trump is guilty, is the same lazy thinking from the other side. That's not skepticism, that's ideology. My honest take? I believe the DOJ when it says there is no evidence here that can support criminal charges against Trump. This file does not prove guilt. Patterns may feel disturbing, but feelings aren't evidence. Right now, no proof actually means no proof, and until that changes, that's where this has to stay. Well, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments whether or not you agree with ChatGPT's answers today, because if I'm being honest, I have a feeling that some of you don't. Either way, I'd really like to hear your thoughts. And as always, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Facebook, TikTok, X, and everywhere else to stay up to date, and hit the join button below the video if you want to support the channel directly. After that, be sure to check out the full Jeffrey Epstein playlist. There's a lot of other videos in there breaking down past leaks and releases, talking through what might come next, and covering angles we didn't get into today. Alright, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out that playlist to catch anything you might have missed, and I'll see you over there in just a moment.